snow settles quietly over the Blue Ridge Mountains, softening every edge, muting every sound, as if the land itself is holding its breath. The road winds upward through dense forest, curving just enough to conceal what lies ahead until the trees part and something unexpected emerges from the stillness. Not a house, not in any ordinary sense, but a structure that feels almost misplaced against the wilderness around it. Stone rises in careful symmetry, towers reaching upward, windows catching pale winter light. For a moment, it appears timeless, untouched by the world beyond its gates. Stand here long enough, and the scale begins to reveal itself. The building stretches outward in measured confidence, its presence less like a home and more like a declaration. 4 acres of living space contained beneath a single roof. Dozens of rooms, fireplaces, corridors that extend farther than the eye can follow. Every surface, every angle, designed not merely to impress, but to overwhelm. It is beauty, undeniably so, but a controlled beauty, one that feels intentional to the point of calculation. From a distance, it invites admiration. Step closer, and the experience changes. The details sharpen. The stonework is precise, almost exacting, as though every piece was placed with a purpose beyond aesthetics. The windows, though grand, seem to watch as much as they reveal. The entrance does not welcome so much as it absorbs, drawing you inward into a space that feels carefully constructed to influence perception. This is not accidental design. This is architecture as statement, as control, as something more than shelter. Inside, the air shifts. Light filters through stained glass, casting muted colors across polished floors, while ceilings rise higher than expected, creating a quiet sense of insignificance in those who enter. Sound behaves differently here. Footsteps echo in just enough to remind you of the space around you, yet never fully filling it. It is easy to admire the craftsmanship, the richness of materials, the careful balance between grandeur and restraint. And yet, beneath that admiration, something else lingers. A subtle awareness that this place demands more than it gives. Because what appears effortless on the surface rarely is. Behind the façade of elegance lies a complexity that is not immediately visible. The warmth in the rooms, the light in the halls, the silence that feels so complete, all of it suggests an invisible system at work. You do not see it at first, but you begin to sense it. The scale alone implies it. A structure of this magnitude does not sustain itself. It requires constant attention, constant input, a continuous flow of resources that never truly stops. Look beyond the grand rooms, and the illusion begins to shift. There are spaces you do not notice at first, corridors that are narrower, less refined, paths that seem to exist parallel to the ones meant to be seen. They hint at movement, at activity that happens out of sight. The polished surfaces and curated spaces are only one layer of the experience. Beneath them exists another, one built not for display, but for function. It is here, in these unseen layers, that the true nature of the house begins to emerge. The question forms quietly, almost without invitation. What does it take to maintain something like this? Not just to build it, but to keep it alive day after day, year after year. The answer is not visible in the chandeliers or the carved stone, but it is present in every detail. The perfection comes at a cost, one that does not announce itself openly, yet can be felt in the weight of the structure itself. And that is where the beauty begins to shift into something more complex. Because what stands here is not simply a mansion, not merely a symbol of wealth or ambition, but a system, one that consumes as much as it impresses. The silence, the warmth, the order. None of it is natural. It is maintained, carefully and continuously, by forces that remain just out of view. So while the first impression is one of awe, it does not take long for a different perspective to emerge. The grandeur is real, but so is the tension beneath it. A quiet imbalance between what is seen and what is required to sustain it. And once that awareness takes hold, the house no longer feels entirely still. It feels active, demanding, almost alive in its need to be preserved. Because behind the façade of beauty lies a deeper story, one not told in stone or glass, but in the unseen effort, the hidden systems, and the cost that continues long after the construction is complete, long before the first stone was placed, before the forests were reshaped and the roads carved into the mountainside. The idea existed only in the mind of a man who did not seek noise, but permanence. It begins not with construction, but with intention. A quiet, deliberate vision formed in contrast to the world around him, a world where wealth was often displayed loudly, measured in spectacle and social approval. Here, the ambition was different. Less visible perhaps, but no less powerful. He was born into immense fortune, a name already established, already feared, already admired. The kind of inheritance that could fund anything or nothing at all. And yet, what set him apart was not the wealth itself, but how he chose to interpret it. Where others saw opportunity for attention, he saw possibility for creation. Not a temporary display, but something that could endure. Something that would outlast not just his lifetime, but his presence entirely. The idea of the house was never just about size. Scale was a tool, not the purpose. What he sought was something more controlled, more deliberate, a private world shaped according to his own understanding of order, beauty, and meaning. A place removed from the expectations of society, where architecture, land, and function could exist as a single unified system. Not simply lived in, but curated, studied, and sustained. There is a certain kind of ambition that does not announce itself. It does not rush. It does not demand immediate recognition. Instead, it builds slowly, carefully, layering decisions over time until something larger begins to take form. This was that kind of ambition. The decision to build here, in the mountains, far from established centers of influence, was not accidental. It was intentional isolation, a controlled environment where the vision could unfold without interference. But ambition alone does not create something of this magnitude. It requires conviction, the willingness to commit not just resources, but time, focus, and identity to a single idea. And that is where the deeper motivation begins to surface. Because behind the façade of architecture lies a question that is rarely spoken openly. What does it mean to leave something behind? Not just wealth, not just memory, but a structure that carries intention within its walls. Legacy, in this sense, is not passive. It is constructed. Every decision becomes part of it, the materials chosen, the layout defined, the systems designed to sustain it. It is an attempt to shape how the future will interpret the present. And in that effort, there's both clarity and risk. Because to build something extraordinary is also to bind it to the conditions required to maintain it. The vision extended beyond the walls themselves. The land was not simply a setting, but part of the design. Forests were to be managed, not left to chance. Resources were to be organized, not wasted. The estate was imagined as a complete environment, where beauty and productivity could coexist, where every element served a purpose within a larger system. It was not just a residence. It was an experiment in control, in sustainability, in the possibility that a single idea, if executed precisely enough, could function indefinitely. And yet, within that vision lies a quiet tension. Because the more precise the design, the greater the demand it creates. Every element that contributes to its perfection also increases its dependency. The larger the system, the more it requires to remain balanced. This is the part that is rarely visible in the early stages, the part that exists behind the facade of ambition itself. To create something extraordinary is to accept that it will never be neutral. It will demand attention, maintenance, resources, and decisions long after the initial vision is realized. It becomes less of a project and more of a responsibility. And that responsibility does not end with the person who imagined it. It extends forward, shaping the lives of those who inherit it, those who sustain it, and those who are drawn into its orbit. In that sense, the house is not just a reflection of wealth, but of intention carried to its furthest point. A place where ambition, legacy, and control converge into something tangible. Something that can be seen, walked through, admired, but also something that must be upheld continuously, whether the original vision remains intact or not. Because behind the façade of this extraordinary creation lies a deeper reality, one that is not defined by the moment of its completion, but by the ongoing effort required to justify its existence. At first glance, the mansion appears still, almost effortless in its presence, as if it has always existed exactly as it is. Stone walls hold their form against the mountain air, windows glow softly with controlled light, and every corridor feels suspended in a kind of quiet perfection. To a visitor, it reads as stability, wealth made visible, ambition made permanent. But behind that stillness, beyond what the eye is invited to see, there is movement. Constant, structured, and unrelenting. Because nothing about a place of this scale exists without systems. Not symbolic systems, but physical ones, working, repeating, consuming. The illusion of silence is maintained by labor that rarely pauses. Rooms must be heated before dawn breaks. Fires are not decorative. They are managed processes requiring timing, fuel, and attention. Light is not natural at this scale. It is generated, distributed, and maintained through networks that remain invisible to those who only walk the polished floors above and beneath the aesthetic surface. The architecture reveals another layer entirely. Corridors extend beyond what guests are ever meant to experience. Narrow passages, service routes, and functional stairways form a parallel structure within the building. This is not accidental design. It is separation by necessity. One system exists for display, another for operation. One is seen, admired, photographed. The other is used, repeatedly, without recognition. To sustain even a single day within such a structure requires coordination that borders on orchestration. Supplies do not simply arrive. They are scheduled, transported, and distributed through carefully timed sequences. Food, fuel, linens, maintenance materials. All of it flows through entry points hidden from formal view. Every object inside the visible rooms has passed through a chain of handling that stretches far beyond what the visitor perceives. The labor behind this system is not occasional. It is continuous. There is no moment where the structure is left entirely to itself. Dust does not wait. Temperature does not stabilize on its own. Materials do not maintain their condition without intervention. Every polished surface is the result of repetition, cleaning, restoring, adjusting, and repeating again. The perfection that feels static is, in reality, maintained through motion, and that motion has human weight. Behind the facade of quiet grandeur exists a workforce whose presence is essential, but deliberately obscured. Their movement defines the rhythm of the building. They are the ones who ensure that when a room is entered, it appears as though nothing has changed since the last moment it was seen. Beds are reset, halls are restored, fireplaces are prepared long before they are noticed. The experience of stillness is constructed through effort that never stops. Logistics, too, shape the reality of the mansion in ways that are not immediately visible. The scale of consumption is not proportional to what the eye assumes. Heat must travel through systems embedded deep within the structure. Water must be delivered, circulated, and managed across vast internal distances. Waste must be removed without disrupting the appearance of order. Each of these processes depends on infrastructure designed not for visibility, but for reliability. The deeper one considers it, the more the mansion begins to resemble something closer to a machine than a residence. Not mechanical in appearance, but in function. A system composed of interdependent parts, each requiring the others to maintain equilibrium. When one part slows, others compensate. When one system demands more, another adjusts. Nothing exists in isolation. And yet, from the outside, none of this complexity is apparent. What is experienced instead is ease. A sense that everything simply works as it should. That is the final layer of design, the concealment of effort. The transformation of continuous labor into perceived stillness. The conversion of systems into atmosphere. But that atmosphere is not natural. It is constructed moment by moment, through decisions repeated daily across unseen spaces. The temperature of a room is not a coincidence. The lighting is not passive. The silence is not absence, it is control. Every detail has been shaped, maintained, and corrected to preserve an illusion of permanence. This is where the true weight of the structure begins to surface. Because behind the beauty lies not just architecture, but obligation. A demand that does not lessen with time. In fact, it increases. The larger the system becomes, the more it must be sustained. The more it is admired, the more it must be preserved in the exact form that created admiration in the first place. And so the mansion exists in a state that is never truly finished. Always maintained, always adjusted, always dependent on the invisible hands that move through its hidden corridors. What appears as stillness is, in reality, balance held in place by constant effort. Behind the facade of elegance and order, the truth is simpler and far more demanding. Nothing here is passive. Everything is maintained. And what feels like permanence is, in reality, continuous work disguised as silence. At some point, even the most carefully constructed systems begin to show strain. Not through collapse, not through sudden failure, but through small, almost imperceptible shifts in balance. A delayed decision here, a reduced allowance there, a tightening of resources that is barely visible on its own. Yet over time, these adjustments begin to reshape everything. What once felt limitless starts to feel measured. What once operated freely begins to operate under constraint. The mansion, for all its scale and elegance, is not separate from the world around it. It is tied to it financially, structurally, and operationally. And as external conditions change, the structure must adapt whether it is ready or not. Wealth that once appeared stable is never truly static. It moves with markets, with policies, with broader economic forces that exist far beyond the stone walls and manicured grounds. And when those forces shift, even slightly, the effects begin to ripple inward. At first, the adjustments are subtle. Certain spaces are used less frequently. Maintenance schedules are stretched just a little further apart. Non-essential restorations are postponed in favor of immediate necessities. From the outside, nothing appears different. The same grandeur remains, the same presence dominates the landscape. But behind the facade, calculations are being made constantly, decisions about what can be maintained, what can be delayed, and what must be quietly reduced. The real cost of sustaining such a place does not lie in its construction, but in its continuation. Every system that once felt like a one-time achievement becomes an ongoing obligation. Stone must be preserved against time. Wood must be treated against decay. Mechanical systems must be serviced, upgraded, or replaced entirely as they age. And none of these processes exist in isolation. Each decision carries consequences for the next, creating a chain of dependency that grows more complex with every passing year. External pressures intensify this reality. Economic downturns, shifts in taxation, changes in labor availability, none of these are abstract concepts here. They translate directly into operational choices. A reduction in available funds does not simply mean less comfort. It means fewer hands to maintain the structure, fewer resources to restore aging details, fewer margins for error when something inevitably requires urgent attention. And so the mansion begins to reflect those pressures in ways that are not immediately visible but deeply felt within its operation. Certain wings may fall into quieter use. Entire sections may be preserved rather than actively maintained. Efficiency becomes a guiding principle, not because it was always part of the design, but because necessity demands it. The idea of unlimited upkeep slowly gives way to prioritization. What makes this transition so significant is not the presence of decline, but the negotiation with it. Nothing is allowed to fail outright. Instead, everything is managed, balanced, and carefully controlled to prevent visible deterioration. It is a constant effort to preserve the appearance of continuity while adapting to reduced flexibility behind the scenes. The structure remains intact, but its relationship with resources becomes increasingly delicate. The financial reality behind such a place is rarely aligned with its visual impression. From a distance, it still represents stability, permanence, and control. Yet stability at this scale is not a fixed condition, it is an active process. Income must continuously meet demand. Demand, however, rarely decreases. As systems age, they require more attention, not less. As time passes, maintenance becomes more intensive, not less frequent. This imbalance creates a pressure that does not announce itself loudly, but persists quietly in every operational decision. There are moments when this pressure becomes more visible, not through dramatic change, but through careful recalibration. Staff reductions that are framed as restructuring. Consolidation of functions that once operated independently. Strategic decisions to focus resources on core areas while allowing peripheral elements to receive less attention. Each adjustment is rational on its own, but together they reveal the underlying truth. Sustaining grandeur is not passive. It is a continuous negotiation with limitation, and yet, even under pressure, the outward identity of the mansion remains carefully preserved. Because perception itself holds value. The experience of visitors, the image projected to the outside world, the sense of continuity across generations, all of it must remain intact. This creates another layer of complexity. Not only must the structure be maintained, but the illusion of effortless permanence must also be protected. Behind the façade, this dual responsibility shapes every decision. Resources are not only allocated for survival, but for appearance. What is seen must continue to justify itself. What is unseen must absorb the cost of maintaining that justification. Over time, this imbalance becomes the defining characteristic of the system itself, and so the real cost emerges not as a single burden, but as a pattern. A slow accumulation of adjustments, compromises, and recalibrations that ensure survival without disruption. It is not collapse that defines this stage, but endurance under constraint. A quiet recognition that even the most extraordinary visions are not immune to external forces, and that sustaining them requires constant adaptation. What once appeared as permanence is revealed to be something far more fragile. Held together not by stability, but by continuous effort shaped by pressures that never fully disappear. Time has a way of redefining everything it touches. What once begins as a private vision, carefully shaped and meticulously built, rarely remains in its original form. It evolves, not through intention alone, but through necessity. And in the case of the mansion, that evolution becomes the final chapter of a story that never truly stops unfolding. There was a moment when the house existed purely as a private world. A place of silence, control, and isolation from the outside gaze. Every corridor reflected a singular purpose, every room tied to a life lived within its own boundaries. But structures of this scale are never truly frozen in time. They are shaped as much by circumstance as by design. And over the decades, the original idea begins to stretch, bend, and adapt to forces no one can fully predict. The transformation does not arrive all at once. It is gradual, almost imperceptible in its early stages. Spaces once reserved for solitude begin to serve new functions. Areas that were once deeply personal open themselves, carefully, to the presence of others. What was once private becomes shared, not out of choice alone, but out of necessity shaped by time and economics. Behind the facade of continuity, the purpose of the structure begins to shift. What is most striking is not the change itself, but the resilience required to allow it. Wealth alone does not guarantee survival. Preservation demands flexibility. And in that flexibility lies a quiet kind of sacrifice, the willingness to let a vision evolve so that it does not disappear entirely. The mansion becomes something it was never originally designed to be. Not just a residence, not just a symbol, but a living system that must justify its existence continuously. As generations pass, the meaning of the structure expands beyond its original creator. What was once a personal statement becomes a shared responsibility. Stewardship replaces ownership in practice, even if not in name. Decisions are no longer guided solely by vision, but by sustainability. Every choice is measured against a simple, unavoidable question: what must be done to ensure this endures? And so adaptation becomes the defining force. The estate learns to exist within new realities. It engages with the world it once stood apart from. Visitors, preservation efforts, structured experiences all become part of its survival. What once symbolized separation from society now depends on interaction with it. The isolation that once defined it is replaced by participation, not as compromise, but as necessity. There is a quiet irony in this transformation. A place built to represent permanence must continuously change in order to remain itself. The more it resists decline, the more it must evolve. And in that evolution, the original idea does not disappear, but it is reframed. It is no longer about isolation or absolute control. It becomes about endurance, about the ability to survive within a world that does not remain still. Behind the facade of grandeur, what truly sustains the mansion is not just wealth, but adaptation. Financial resources matter, but they are only part of the equation. Equally important is the willingness to make difficult choices, decisions that prioritize survival over perfection, function over original intent, continuity over idealism. This is where the true weight of legacy reveals itself. Because legacy is not a static achievement. It is an ongoing negotiation between what was intended and what is possible. It requires constant maintenance, not only of physical structures, but of meaning itself. Without adaptation, even the most extraordinary creations risk becoming irrelevant, no matter how magnificent they once were. And so the mansion stands today not as a frozen artifact, but as a result of continuous adjustment. Every preserved detail carries within it a history of compromise. Every restored surface reflects a decision made to keep it alive rather than allow it to fade into memory. It is not untouched by time. It is shaped by it. What its survival ultimately reveals is not just the scale of wealth that created it, but the deeper truth about what it takes to preserve anything of significance across generations. Wealth initiates creation, but it is sacrifice that ensures continuity. Vision begins the story, but adaptation writes its continuation. In the end, the mansion becomes more than a structure. It becomes a record of endurance, a physical reminder that even the most ambitious dreams are not defined by their moment of creation, but by their ability to persist through change. And behind its enduring presence lies a simple, unspoken truth: nothing extraordinary survives without learning how to transform.